The more you do, the less you achieve. So I want to talk about why that is, the psychology of why does that exist, and what to do about it instead. If you're interested, I'm back on Instagram. I do sell the Potential Planner, which is basically a dream map, taking the desire and the calling that is uniquely yours and charting a roadmap for how to get that done. And then I also do have hour-long coaching sessions about whatever you want to talk about. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I have this diagram here, and the way I see it, we are all circles in different arenas of our lives of reality versus potential. So as I'm working on something, let's say this circle, this is my reality. This is how good I am at dancing, let's say. And as I practice and as I work on this thing, that circle is slowly expanding to meet the circle of what my potential could be. But the vast majority of us never reach our potential in any one area of life, let alone the area of life that would make all the difference. So I have this graph here, which has been attributed to the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's not exactly the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's why I put it in quotes, but that's what a lot of people call it. So that's what I'll call it here. But it's basically a graph of the relationship of over time, how your perceived skill changes, how you perceive your skill level. Or in other words, that's your confidence or your positive emotions in a skill. Anytime you start learning a skill, you have this peak of Mount Stupid, and then you get into this trough of despair. And this graph, this is years, but this is the graph of over 5 to 10 years. Like I would say this is a 10-year graph. And this right here is year 1, year 2, I would say, that you fully get down, depending on how much time you've been putting into something, how soon you fully get into this trough of despair and how long that lasts. But the interesting thing about this, if I were to lay over then this graph of a learning curve, this black line are your perceived skills and your emotions, and this red line are your actual skills, and we see that those don't really line up at all. And in fact, at the beginning, you perceive yourself to be a lot better than you actually are. So this creates an interesting phenomenon of perceived versus actual skills. So this whole part right here that I've shaded in, this is when you perceive yourself to be better than you actually are. At the beginning of a venture, you feel very motivated. You feel like you're doing great work. In my first year teaching, when I looked back, I was like, I feel so great about these lessons. I was feeling great. A couple years later, I looked back at those lessons because I was like, oh, I should reuse those. I was feeling so passionate at the time. And they are just objectively terrible lessons, but my emotions told me, and my perceived skill and just kind of the sheer stupidity when you're starting out with something told me that it was really great. So this is a key that we cannot trust our emotions as an indicator of how well we're doing, of if we should keep going. And if we let our emotions be the barometer of if we should keep going or not, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where then we feel poorly. So then we show up, like if I were to show up on camera, then you show up poorly, and it actually does create a negative result. But that's why you shouldn't start by trusting your emotions. Just trust the process. So at the beginning, we think we're better than we actually are, and we have pretty high emotions, pretty high confidence. But then we get to this point right here where these two lines cross, where we get into this trough of despair. And this is where your skills are objectively better than you feel that your skills are. And because your confidence has taken such a hit, and you start to realize the things you don't know, you start to really notice your imperfections, you start to notice the level that other people are operating at. This is a point where comparison can come in. This is a point that is very difficult for people to make it through. And in assessing some of why I like to quit things and why I like to hop from thing to thing to thing is because I cannot stand to make it through this trough of despair. It is so much more fun to jump from career to career to career to hobby, from city to city, when you get this initial boost of motivation. But the thing is that it's all artificial. None of that confidence is real, genuine confidence. It's perceived and fake confidence. And in the long run, you lose the ability to grow into your fullest potential. So this is what it can feel like sometimes. Over time, your enjoyment, it just feels like you're having fun, you're learning new things, you feel this boost of motivation, and it just feels sometimes like there's this cliff. Like I was really enjoying myself, and now I just can't seem to enjoy myself anymore. I'm really overly criticizing myself, and I cannot stand to keep going. So this is where in that middle point, it can be really tempting to fall off the cliff of bad emotions. And instead of persevering and staying with something for a long time as a way to alleviate those bad emotions, a quick fix is to just hop to a new hobby and to continue hopping to new hobbies, new relationships, new cities, all the things that I've done basically in my life. So this is why the more you do, the less you achieve. If we go back to that circle at the beginning where your skills and the reality is constantly expanding to meet your potential if you're learning. And so the more you work on one thing that you are uniquely capable of doing, the more that circle grows. But when we hop around to this circle, to this circle, to this circle, we just become average. Okay, I become average at dancing. I become average at YouTube. I become average at teaching instead of focusing on one thing and growing that thing, which is why at the beginning of the year, if we set all these goals, I want to weigh a certain amount. I want to drink more water. All of these goals that are very generic, most people have the goal that they want to be healthier. We are diluting our efforts and trying to expand those circles, but not really making a lot of progress in any of them. And then our emotions are feeling kind of bad. So we kind of stop for a while and hop to another circle. When one goal's not working, we can always just hop over to another one. It takes away all the attention from the big goal that we are uniquely designed to do, that we can uniquely accomplish in this world. So that's why when people set goals, I really advocate for don't set these generic goals that everyone wants. Everyone has these basic desires in life to be healthy and wealthy and smart and all this stuff. But what are you uniquely designed to do? And set a goal based on that makes you a little scared, it makes you a little excited, and stay on it for a long time and expand that circle until your reality is getting closer and closer to your potential. And that is exactly why, by the way, before I get to the end, what I feel like the crux of this whole thing is why I made the potential planner. It's a dream mapper. If you like diagrams like this, minimal design with graphics, it's full of things like that, but it's mapping out your dream, the thing that you are uniquely designed to do, forsaking all the other generic goals, that people might have, which they're good things. You want to do those things. But I've just found so much of my life that this is more like dominoes. And when you get this big snowball rolling, it knocks over and kind of continues all the other with it. So now getting what we're building to here. So when you're on the journey of doing something that's really important to you, that you feel called to do, like writing a book or having some social media channel, for example, I feel like all the emotions are very heightened because it can be really easy to attach your identity to it. So all these phases just get emotionally heightened, or there's the potential for them to. So this first phase is the novelty phase. There is a strong temptation to just hop from novel thing to novel thing to novel thing without reaping the rewards. But then you get into the phase that's repetition. And it is so boring. It is my least favorite phase. You're learning skills. At the beginning, you get to learn all the skills that are fun to you. Like for me, I've been learning some new dancing skills. So I get to learn, oh, I love this. I love this. At the beginning, you're just able to kind of follow your curiosity. Then you get to a point where you have learned all the fun skills that you wanted to learn. And now you've got to get into learning the skills that you just didn't like that much, because every skill or thing we could possibly do is going to have parts that we don't like. And so if we can make it through this repetition phase, then we can get to the unique advantage. And it's a true unique advantage. It's not this peak of Mount Stupid where we feel like we're special, that we feel like we can do well at it, but it's the true unique advantage. And I think most people don't get to the point where they can get through this repetitious phase, where they can get through this drop of despair. This is where a lot of people give up. And the reason is because it's very emotionally taxing. There's the biggest gap between where you actually are and what your emotions are here. And so even when your emotions are at their worst, it's really important to remember that you're not objectively at your worst. You may have felt better over here, but your skill was actually down here. So I wanted to end with this Nietzsche quote. I'm not sure if that's how you say his last name. I've heard his name pronounced a ton of different ways. But the essential thing is that there should be long obedience in the same direction. There thereby results, and has always resulted in the long run, something which has made life worth living. So I love that quote, the long obedience in the same direction. I think a lot of us know what we want to do to some degree. It's been with us for 5 years, for 10 years, this nudge, this whisper, and we're kind of like not really obedient to the nudge. We're kind of think, I don't know, maybe I should try this, or I do it for a while and then I get bad emotions, or I do it for a while and things don't seem like they're working out, and I just feel like I'm falling flat on my face over and over again, and I just get tired of falling flat on my face over and over again. But if you can just make it through the long obedience to that nudge, because it's not going to go away. Whether you continue to work on it and fall flat on your face, or you don't work on it, and so you're just effectively just laying down, metaphorically, you never got up. Either way, that nudge is still going to be there. 5 years from now, it's still going to be there. If you wanted to do music 5 years ago and you haven't done anything about it, that nudge is still going to be there 5 years from now, 10 years from now. If you wanted to write a book, if you wanted to start a social media channel, whatever you feel like that whisper is that won't go away, I promise you it's not going to go away. So you need to have the long obedience to that nudge, to that whisper, through the trough, and just trust that your emotions are not the barometer of success. You just have to trust the process and the long obedience, and eventually the emotions will follow. But it's continuous years of action, of consistency, where you feel like you're not doing very well, that will lead to the outcome that you want. But the action precedes the emotions. So don't follow the emotions. Do the actions first and the emotions will follow. So the more you do, the less you achieve. So pick the one thing that's uniquely yours to do and go ahead and do it. If you're interested in the potential planner, I will have that linked in the description. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.